right now. We're going to speak to Tim Dieppe, Head of Public Policy at Christian Concern. There's loads of people down in Westminster. It's a very emotive subject. A lot of people pro, a lot of people anti. Some people think that the vote is going to go through, which will mean that it's assisted dying is granted, but others say it's very much more closer than you would think. So let's find out from Tim, who I think is against assisted dying, has an argument. Tim, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
So, I mean, we've heard from both sides already this morning. I mean, both sides really make some quite compelling arguments, and it's one of those situations where I suppose as a moral issue, it sort of splits the country. And I must say I find some sympathy with both arguments. I think I've come down after some thought about it all that I don't think it's necessary to bring a new law in to make this possible, because I think you know, what happens at the moment is probably not maybe perfect, but probably okay. Tell us what your position is.
Well, I agree with you, Mike. And the law as it stands is the best option out of this situation. And really, we should call it assisted suicide. Let's be clear about that. This bill aims to amend the Suicide Act 1961 in order to make it legal to help someone commit suicide. And surely that's not what a kind of compassionate society does when somebody is suicidal, says, oh yes, let me help you end your life. And the very last thing somebody in pain and suffering or being told you haven't got many months to live, the very last thing they want is their trusted doctor or consultant saying to them, have you considered suicide? What an awful thing to do, really, as a society. And you read stories of people in legislations where this has been legalised, countries where it's been legalised, and the doctors come round every morning and say, have you considered suicide? What an awful thing to say to somebody. And you get people who regret it, who say, if I'd been able to commit suicide, I would have done. I'm so glad I didn't in the end, because I wouldn't have missed out on all these kind of things. You get doctors who get the diagnoses wrong. You know, they say it's 6 months to live, and then decades later, the person's still alive.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, the woman we spoke to earlier, who was in favour of this law change and bringing in assisted dying, assisted suicide, said that, you know, well, I trust the lawyers, I trust the doctors. Well, you know, that's all very well for you to say, but a lot of people don't, because we've seen doctors getting it wrong before. We've seen lawyers getting it wrong before.
We've seen judges get it wrong as well. We've seen in some of our cases, judges have ruled it's in the best interest of a patient to die, even when that's against their wishes, or they haven't expressed the wishes, or the family have all thoroughly opposed it. And even when there's alternative treatment available at no cost to the NHS, the judge has still said, oh, best interest to die. So yes, I don't trust the judges on this at all. They haven't got time. There isn't capacity for them to do anything other than rubber stamp something here. There's no methodology for testing whether somebody's being coerced. Relatives have an interest to obtain the will and get and cause somebody to die before their time because they're not bothered about it. There's all sorts of problems that arise. Once you legalise this, you've changed the law in a fundamental way. And what you've seen from other countries again is that people campaign, I should have the right to, I should have the right to. And before you know it, people who are very far from anything like a terminal diagnosis are having the legal right to end their lives or have somebody assist in ending their lives. And it's an awful thing to see, really, when you legalise it. So I really hope it doesn't go through today.
Yes. And what's your understanding of the kind of breakdown so far of the way that
I think the best intelligence, Mike, is that it'd be very, very close today. A lot of MPs still haven't declared which way they go. Quite a few MPs have said, I'm going to see how it goes on the debate today. So all to play for the people speaking in the debate today. A lot of MPs who've never really thought about this before suddenly thrown into a very high-stakes, highly emotive debate, life and death issue, and really unsure which way to go. People could be swayed today on the day. Right. And so we will see. Whatever happens, it's a lot closer than anybody expected. Certainly even I expected a few months ago when we knew this was going to come. I thought we haven't really got a chance. But, it's actually a lot closer than anyone expected. People have heard the arguments. Disabled people have made the arguments. People with end-of-life diagnoses have made the arguments. and people are realising that it's not as simple as people think in terms of the what would happen if you change the law on this.
And presumably it's quite a long way from being made into... People have said that it's all being rushed through rather, unceremonially in Parliament, but presumably after today it would have to go to the Lords, it'd have to come back. I mean, there's quite a long period of time left before anything really changes, isn't there?
That's right. There would be scrutiny in committee. It would have to go through the Lords, back through the Commons again. It'll be a few years yet before the law changes, and still some chances that it wouldn't change. But yeah, this is an in-principle vote. If it goes through, it'd be very hard to stop it. But not to say people wouldn't try, but it's not guaranteed if it goes through today. I hope it doesn't go through today, but if it does, there's still a long way to go before it actually becomes law.
Yeah, I mean, the woman we spoke to who was in favour of bringing it in said that, this was based upon the Oregon model and looking at the Oregon model and things that happen in Canada. There hasn't been a slippery slope. There hasn't been suddenly a rush for people to kill themselves or to take their own lives or anything like that. What would you say to someone who made those arguments and say that, it doesn't really change anything, it just gives people more rights?
It really does. It really does change things. It changes the doctor-patient relationship. It changes the society's attitude to suicide. In Australia, when this was legalised, not only did assisted suicides increase, but unassisted suicides increased as well. And in Oregon and every other country, the numbers of people obtaining suicide by this means has continued to increase every year since it's come into play. It really changes a fundamental rule in society about suicide. Is suicide something you should help someone to do? And at the moment, if you meet someone on the bridge, the last thing you want to do is say, oh yeah, I'll help you, I'll push you off the bridge. No, you want to persuade them not to, and later on they'll thank you for it. And that's the experience as well of people who've had diagnoses and terminal diagnoses and, gone through an awful time in their lives when they felt suicidal. Somebody's persuaded them not to, and they're so glad they didn't, or so glad they didn't live in a jurisdiction where it is legal, when otherwise they would have ended their lives. So it's a massive crossing of a line. It's a very monumental moment if it happens today. I really hope it doesn't, but it will be a very significant change in the law, perhaps the biggest change in the law for 50 years since the 1967 legalisation of abortion.
Sure. Good to talk to you. Tim Dieppe, thank you very much indeed, Head of Public Policy at Christian Concern, very much against the introduction of a sort of assisted dying law, which he calls assisted suicide. Let's talk to Tracy, who's in Northampton. Hi, Tracy.
I don't. Yeah, no. I'm all for it. I've experienced it. I've watched my mum lay in the bed, weeing herself in pain, doing everything, and she has whispered in my ear, "Just put a pillow over my head, please, to end it." And you can't do that because you know the consequences. They're like, to feed your own mum like a baby, to see her like that, and she doesn't want to be here. She doesn't want to be here. She doesn't want people seeing her like. She doesn't want her own child feeding her, liquidise things and changing her. So no, I'm sorry. I hope it goes through today in Parliament. Because the pain as well that she was in, it's awful. So no, I'm sorry.
No, I get that. And is she not with you anymore?
No, she died. But it was 6 months of sheer pain. She was in, and I should, if I had the guts to have done that, I would have done it. But I know the law, I couldn't do it. She begged, and I couldn't.
But you say it though. But can I ask you, Tracy? I mean, if you had the ability to give her something, or a doctor came and gave her something, and you stood there with her, and you held her hand and you watched her pass away, would you be okay with that?
Yes, I would, because I know she's out of pain. She's out of pain, and she's not begging me near enough, twice, 3 times a week to let me end it. So no, yes, I would be, yes. And I'd sit with her, and yes, absolutely. How can you watch somebody in pain, and there's no cure, and there's nothing there for them?
No, listen, it's a very compelling argument. I feel for you, and you're not wrong, and I get it. I'm just not sure that there's enough in the bill, the way that it's constructed, that will safeguard some people who might not be just as good-natured as you, or who might not be as honest and as truthful as you, And I worry that there'll be people that might take advantage of it in some way.
Yeah, I know, but I just think of them poor people like my mum who suffered.
Yeah.
Do you want to watch somebody suffer?
I totally get what you're saying. I didn't enjoy seeing my mother at the end. You know, she didn't suffer for long, but it wasn't pleasant.
It wasn't. It's not pleasant. And I always say, and I know there's no companionship. You wouldn't let a dog in pain, would you? Squeal. You'd have them put down. I've had a dog put down, so I know what it's like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Which
I know
is
there's
also awful as well.
It's absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
But you know, they don't. You make that choice for them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the best choice for me was to have my dog put down because he was in pain.
Yeah.
And I couldn't take it anymore.
No, of course. No, listen, Tracy, I totally get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you at all. Tracy, thank you very much indeed. The conversation, the debate is just getting underway. I don't know if we can hear any of that from Mr. Speaker. Let's go over for a minute.
To make their comments, and then we will move to end the debate. I've got to manage the expectation. Not everyone will get in. I will try and get as many people as possible. So it's important that this debate, it is one of the most important debates this House has had. So it's about being considerate, respectful of each other, and let us listen to each other. This is for the time for the House to show itself at its best. The clerk will now proceed to read the orders.
That's the Speaker introducing the debate on assisted dying.